This episode is brought to you by Storyworth. Give your mom, your daughter who's a mom, your grandmother, any important mom in your life the most meaningful gift this Mother's Day with Storyworth. Get started right away. No shipping required. Go to storyworth.com/gems. That will get you $10 off your first purchase. storyworth.com/gems. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 252. Today I am bringing you Newspaper Navigator. It is one of the new projects over at the Library of Congress. This audio comes to you from 11s is with Lisa. Now that's our weekly live show over at the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel. And in episode 26 of 11s is with Lisa, we talked about how to find amazing imagery over at Newspaper Navigator. And the imagery comes from Chronicling America. So let's jump right into it. Let's go find photos and images in old newspapers. One of the really cool things that's happening these days is that technology is moving faster than ever. And there's been a new project over at the Library of Congress lab. And the lab is sort of a think tank. It takes a look at technological innovations and how they're progressing and how they might be able to be used to help this amazing, vast collection of digital collections over at the Library of Congress, how maybe they can make them more useful and help people find more of what they're looking for. I mean, they just have such a vast treasure trove at the Library of Congress. It's really that artificial intelligence and machine learning that has really kind of jumped things forward. And, we're already seeing that at genealogy websites, certainly. And you're going to be seeing today how this is making an impact at the Library of Congress. So when you think about the Library of Congress, we think about Chronicling America, and that is sponsored jointly by the National Endowment for the Humanities, together with the Library of Congress. And they provide free digitized newspapers that span from about 1789 to 1963. And at the Library of Congress's Chronicling America website, you can search for these. You probably at some point have done that. If you've read my book about newspaper research, you've probably definitely done that. And one of the things you can also find here is that little kind of purple button. That will let you search to find out if a newspaper was in publication. So it catalogs all of the published newspapers from 1690 to the present time. So those aren't all going to be digitized, but if you don't find what you need in digitized papers, that's your next step, is to click that button. One of the things I'm kind of a big advocate for and talk about a lot, particularly I was thinking about this in my using Google Books. If you're a premium member, you may have seen the video Google Books, the tool I use every single day, and I really do. And one of the things that we talk about that is specifically imagery. The idea that these public domain digitized books and newspapers all have pictures, right? And lots of really wonderful, sometimes one-of-a-kind imagery. Since we know that they're in the public domain, that makes them all the more attractive for use in genealogy research. But they can be kind of challenging to find, right? Because whether you're looking through a book, there might be one or two pictures, maybe just one map that's been hand-drawn to talk about a specific moment in history, and all the rest of it is just typed text. That's kind of hard to slog through. Well, it's the same thing, definitely, with newspapers. An example of what it might look like over at the Library of Congress. You do a search, and you kind of very quickly start to notice that, oh my gosh, there are pictures in there. But a lot of times, these pictures are not going to be easy to find because of the vast amount of newspapers. But you're looking at pictures like photographs, drawings, maps. I have found a couple of really interesting maps that I've just never found anywhere else. Sometimes they were created just for that article. Also, of course, cartoons, advertisements. The advertisements just give you such a deep look into the lives of the time frame because these are the products they use. This was what was in their home. So it's really fascinating to see all of this imagery. The tool that's going to make this much easier to deal with is Newspaper Navigator. This is brand new over at the Library of Congress's Chronicling America. It came straight out of the Library of Congress labs, and it takes advantage of this artificial intelligence. They refer to it as AI. I think they're really talking about machine learning. There's always lots of debate about what's the difference between them, but just think of it in terms of the computer, the machine is doing some of the learning for you, and it's doing it faster sometimes than you could ever do, and it's going to be able to then deliver more unique search results. So it's more than a search engine. It's really what's happening behind the scenes to build on what it already knows in order to get you more of what it is you want. So let's talk about this Newspaper Navigator. This was a project that started this spring of 2020. And the URL, we'll have this for you in the show notes. And of course, if you're a premium member, you can download the complete handout so that you've got that to work with. This Newspaper Navigator, the data set currently consists of 16,358,000 historic newspaper images. So that's a ton of imagery. These are extracted. Just think of anything that's visual content is getting extracted by the Navigator over at Chronicling America. And the visual content that they're working with was identified using something called Object Detection Model. It's trained on annotations of World War I era Chronicling America pages. Those are the pages that they first started on, was that era around World War I. And they started initially with those newspaper sets. The staff went in and started annotating, kind of figuring out what they wanted to grab that would help this tool find the imagery and bring it to you. And then they brought on volunteers who worked through a project also over at Library of Congress who did further annotations. So they were not just looking at the pictures, they were looking at the headlines, the captions, anything that would help them kind of further identify this imagery so that they could help bring it to you. This visual recognition model, the content recognition model, it detects photographs, illustrations, maps, comics and cartoons, editorial cartoons, headlines, because a lot of times, just like on a website, sometimes you're looking at a big headline of text, and really that's a picture. It could be very much a picture. So it stands out from regular small text, and they will grab that as well to kind of help. And of course, advertisements. It also includes the text corresponding to the imagery. We were talking about the caption that might appear, or perhaps an article near the image. And that's being identified by optical character recognition. Now, you've probably heard that term, right? OCR. OCR is used in a lot of different programs. Evernote uses it. Google Books uses it. Certainly a lot of the genealogy record websites do. OCR is not perfect, but it's a big leap to be able to have the machine be able to look at the characters being typed on the page. They're not reading the text. They're literally identifying the characters, kind of putting them in order and figuring out the words and giving you a typed up version of what was actually appearing in an image, right? Which normally you can't highlight text in an image and copy and paste it like you could on a website. So it's able to really extract that and interpret it. So let's look at a search at a Newspaper Navigator. We're going to search all the images, all their captions, and let's use one of the ones here, baseball. They have a couple that will kind of give you a little one to start. You click the baseball link, and we'll see here that you can sort the images that are coming out of these newspapers by the oldest or the newest. Now, remember the time frame we're talking to. It's up to 1963. So you're going to switch it to the newest. You're looking at 1963 and further back from there. So depending on the time frame, but you can also filter down more specifically than that. But it's pretty cool if you have ever used Chronicling America and you've seen the pages. A lot of times those pages are so big that they appear as very small thumbnails on the page, don't they? So if a photograph or an image is on that page, it's almost impossible to really understand what it is unless you click through, load the page, zoom in, and take a look at the imagery. This is doing it for us. The results page is going to give you about 100 images per page, up to 100. So if there's not 100, obviously there's not that many, but you can scour quite a bit on a single page. This makes it really easy to browse. And you're going to realize that as we move forward in this, that browsing is going to be important because this is all brand new. And one, the machine learning is continuing to learn, so it's got a ways to go, but also because OCR is not perfect and because the search engine itself that they're using is very new, it doesn't have a lot of features. There's not a lot of flexibility in the keyword searching. So being able to easily browse without having to click through to newspaper pages and load issues, this in itself is a huge time saver. You might right off the bat recognize a face, but more importantly, you're also going to recognize the kind of imagery that you're interested in. And I'm going to show you how you can zero in on that. So here's just an example of the time-saving element of this, okay? So if you're using Newspaper Navigator and you search on baseball, you get 5,427 results. If you do that same search at Chronicling America, it's over 900,000 pages. So 900,000 results, and you're going to have to click through. I mean, it's nearly impossible if you're really looking for pictures. So this is very good. And this isn't even filtered. If I do baseball for 5,427, I've done a search from 1900 to 1963, 63 years worth, no filters, no location filters yet. So we can get that number way down and be able to target. Chronicling America is just the United States. But here's the key, folks. I know we've got people from around the world. What was happening around the world is getting reported in United States newspapers. So I wish I had a newspaper navigator for you for Australia and England and all the different places. Let me tell you, I see lots of great articles from around the world in these newspapers. So I think you may still have some great success with that. So here's an example of blacksmith. So Bill's great-grandfather was a blacksmith in England in Tunbridge Wells. And so I'm going to type in blacksmith, and you can filter by state. So if I knew, well, okay, he moved to Oregon, so I'm going to just filter down to Oregon and see. Or maybe I'm just really looking for a representative image of a blacksmith. Sometimes you're not going to find your ancestors, but when you're doing genealogy research, it's really cool to be able to get an image from the time frame that's in the public domain. You don't have to worry about copyright and be able to grab an image from the time to kind of represent it, whether you're doing a book or a video, one of the videos we talked about doing Adobe Spark, or a PowerPoint presentation, whatever it is you're doing. So this is searching by keyword. And of course, you can filter by location, whichever state you want, and also by years. Right now, I don't see a way to do multiple states at one time, but it's so quick that you could literally just do the first state, go back, redo it, do the second state, and take a look at it that way. So you might want to download an image because you're going to find something that you like. I found an image here for blacksmith. And these are guys in the shop, students at work. And in 1900, this is one of the earliest pictures they have of blacksmithing in the newspaper. So when we click the image, it will make it larger and you can click the download the image. Here's another one. The buttons are download the image or look at the full issue. Look at learn more about the newspaper that this picture came out of. So there are some really nice representative imagery around blacksmiths that could be a really nice addition to a family history project or story that you're trying to tell. Maybe you have a blog. I hope you're blogging about your family. And this would, again, would be a nice little addition to bring some visual elements, particularly into stories where we don't have a lot of visual, elements, photos of our own and our specific ancestors. So here we're downloading this image to our computer. You just click download image. When we double click it, here's the nice thing. They're giving you a really nice high-res image. This is not going to be blurry because it was small on the page. This comes from the original digitized issue, which is a huge, number of pixels. So you're going to get a nice high-resolution image that you can use. If you've ever done any kind of self-publishing, like I've made little coffee table books and things for my family, and you stick a picture in there, and then you see, oh, it's grainy. That's not going to work. Well, this is nice. Okay, so Newspaper Navigator date range, 1789 to 1963 is chronicling America. They zeroed in first on World War I imagery, just that time frame, that 1915, 1918 spread. That was something that they were initially working on, and that's why they used those first to start training this system. But Navigator covers 1900 to 1963. Chronicling America goes way further back into the 1700s, and the newspaper directory we were talking about even goes back to around 1690. So we have a couple different time frames. I'm going to have all those for you in the show notes because I know it's a lot to keep it all straight. Straight out of the lips of the Library of Congress, they said everything that you find here up to 1963 is public domain. You have the okay to use it. So that's kind of nice. Same thing in Google Books. You may find books past 1924. And I know 1924 is that year we think of as the cutoff on the copyright. But sometimes the publisher, the author, somebody has given additional permissions and they're usable. So there's public domain and then there's the issue of the copyright itself. But Library of Congress says that, and I've got a link for you I'm going to have in the show notes that'll take you directly to their statements on the usage. And we're going to talk about how you can cite these as well. So let's talk about citing images. I know that's on your mind. You guys are very conscientious when it comes to citing your sources and citing where you're getting your content from and making sure that we're honoring people's copyrights. So when you click an image, you're going to get this little pop-up where you could download the image, but you can also cite it. So they have a little button, cite this. It'll give you what you need to do that. And it's in the public domain, so you can use it, but you are getting it from this website. It's the right thing to do to cite the fact that it came from this location. So they said, quote, include the image URL plus a citation to the website. So for example, from the Library of Congress, Newspaper Navigator dataset, which is the collection that they've pulled together. And that's the thing, is they made the effort to pull it together, so we want to recognize that. Extracted visual content from Chronicling America. So that was kind of their quote. That's a really safe, good citation to use. All images, they said, are in the public domain, and I'm going to have that link. You can also just Google it. Library of Congress, Chronicling America, About page. All right, let's talk a little bit about the newspaper because there's more than just the picture. Chances are there might be other text, other articles associated with this image. So you're going to want to click through, and you can do that right from Newspaper Navigator. It takes you straight to the page that is in Chronicling America, and you can kind of scan through it here. If you don't see it, check. There might be another page worth of pages to go look at. We're going to click through to the page. Now here's the Blacksmiths and Helpers float. So they were doing some kind of a parade float or something. And there are other articles surrounding the picture that would be probably of interest. So keep that in mind, particularly if you were fortunate enough to find a photograph or an image specifically about your family in some way. Absolutely click through, look at the full issue, And then also go look at the newspaper, because if they're reported on this page, chances are they may be other pages. You might want to be more familiar with this newspaper. So this is going to give you all the information about, it's really the card catalog for the paper. And it's also going to tell you other libraries, other archives where you might be able to access it even in person, or who may have digital versions of it. So we can click the related links and look at the different holdings. It's a nice breadcrumb trail to finding more. Take advantage of what you find, capitalize on it, and find more. Click libraries that have it on the Library of Congress Chronicling America page, and that will show you all the libraries. You can even put in your zip code, and it will put those archives in order, those libraries, to the ones that are closest to you, if you want to go visit. More Newspaper Navigator in just a moment. Today's episode is sponsored by MyHeritage, a global discovery platform enjoyed by 110 million people worldwide. MyHeritage has it all and offers a full-service experience that bridges your past, present, and future. The MyHeritage DNA Kit reveals your ethnic origins and finds your new relatives based on shared DNA. It's popular all over the world, and their constantly growing DNA database means that more matches to new relatives are just around the corner. You'll receive a percentage breakdown of your ethnic origins from 42 supported regions, and weekly email updates as new DNA matches are found. It's also the leading DNA service for anyone with European origins. Make the most of your DNA results with a MyHeritage subscription and access advanced tools for genetic genealogy, like the theory of family relativity, autoclusters, shared ancestral places, and much more. Order your kit today at myheritage.com/DNA. Already taken a DNA test with another service? Upload your DNA data to MyHeritage for free to receive DNA matches and access new discoveries. That's myheritage.com/DNA. Gosh, my friends, Mother's Day is just around the corner. And, if there's ever been a year that we want to make the moms in our life feel loved and appreciated on Mother's Day, it's really this year. This is the perfect time for honoring your mom, your mother-in-law, your grandmother, or any mom that you care about. How about a daughter who's a wonderful mom? Send them a heartfelt, sentimental gift that really the whole family can cherish together forever. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, that is Storyworth. Storyworth is an online service that's going to help your mom, your grandmother, your mother-in-law, your daughter share their stories through thought-provoking questions about their memories and their personal experiences. It's a fun new way to engage with them, especially for those where you don't live in the same area. So every week, Storyworth emails her with a different story prompt. They're questions like, what's the best advice your mom ever gave you? Oh, that's a good one for your daughter, right? Or how about, what was your grandmother like? What did you like to do with your grandmother? Storyworth has helped so many families learn so much more about each other in really profound ways. That's certainly been my experience. You can even add photos to the stories. It kind of becomes an interactive experience, and I just love reading stories that I've never heard before. There's no shortage of surprises when you're reading these weekly stories, and they make your family feel close even if you're not together. And then after 1 year, Storyworth compiles all your mom's stories, including the photographs, into a beautiful keepsake book that's shipped for free to her. And you can even order a copy for yourself as well. And that's what I love about it. There's this interactive personal experience between the two of you. It's a gift she'll always remember. And yet it becomes a keepsake and really a little piece of her legacy. And I can't think of anything better than that. So give your mom the most meaningful gift this Mother's Day with Storyworth. Get started right away. Don't put this one off. We have so many regrets as genealogists that we didn't sit down and interview our older relatives when we were young. This is your chance today to interview those that you care about. So get started. It's easy. There's no shipping required. You just go to storyworth.com/gems. And you got to go there because it's going to get you $10 off on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/gems, GEMS, for Genealogy Gems. And what's better than saving $10, connecting with your loved one, and ending up with a wonderful keepsake book at the end of it. It's storyworth.com/gems. And now back to more Newspaper Navigator. Okay, so let's try the baseball search. They give you a couple of different ones every time you look at the page. But here's just an example. There's all this baseball imagery, but different types. We've got teams, we've got people who played in teams, we've got uniforms. Okay, when we click through, if we're looking at list view, I kind of like this because you can see what OCR is doing. Why are they grabbing this? And it will highlight for you, it's because it mentions baseball. So you can see how they're capitalizing on the OCR. Over in the filters, I could say, well, I've got lots here, but really it's Kansas I'm interested in. Select Kansas, and now our list is brought way down, 55 images that we can look at and do a quick little scan of some of the text that's associated. That might give us some clues. And I might say, well, I don't need them all the way to 1963. Maybe I'll just switch them up and cut it in half and maybe only go to 1950. So Kansas, 1950, talking about baseball. Here are the images. So that's kind of cool. But depending on whether you're looking for an image of an ancestor, an image of somebody wearing the uniform of a team that your ancestor might have been on, the team picture, there might be images in here for a variety of reasons that are not a good match. Okay, and we can talk a lot about that. It's almost a whole nother subject, but what goes on behind the scenes? This artificial intelligence has been trained initially by people and by text, but it's going to make its own assumptions too. They were saying in the background of this project that there was a point where it was matching pictures based on the smudges and the lines and the creases in the pictures on the newspaper page that probably came from microfilm, which probably came from the original newspaper. So there's a lot of defects that can come into them as well. So for a variety of reasons, you might get things that aren't a great match. We can do more though. Let's first create a collection. So we can gather up the ones that we like, that we think are a good fit for what we're looking for. So let's say I'm really interested in teams. So I'm going to go through really quickly, and if I hover over the image, you can add it to the collection. This is your personal collection. So we can just go through and really quickly add the different teams, pictures, okay? And we're going to click Save. This is going to not only save it as a collection, but it's going to generate a URL. If you wanted to send this to somebody else, you could copy and paste that URL. It's actually already copied to the clipboard of your computer. You could go and paste that in an email, on your website, whatever you like, and people will be able to click through and see the collection that you created, which is kind of neat. Great for blogging, on social media. So here's my collection. It's grabbed all these images, and these are the ones that are in my personal collection, and they've been saved. We can also, again, click List in that right-hand corner, or we can do Gallery to get different views. List is going to show you the OCR text that's associated with this as well. Okay, so you've made a collection. You're going to help train the robot, the artificial intelligence, okay? You can train the system to do even more of what you want. I love this. So we're going to take advantage of machine learning. Let's go back. We're at our collection, and we're going to click Train My AI Navigators. We've taken the ones we like, and we've said, go get more specifically like these. Okay? So we got a lot of teams, but I also had a couple of guys standing full length with their uniform on, so we got some of those pictures as well. At the top, you can name your navigator. So we're going to name it Baseball Uniforms and click Save. Okay, again, we're generating a URL. We could share that with somebody. We could put it on our website. Now, over here on the left, in my navigators, I now have a baseball navigator. I can create a new one. Let's say, that was a unique mix, but I want to do something more specific. So I'm going to remove the guy in just the single person because I really want to, let's say, focus on teams. Now, we can go to the list on the right and we can add in more of what we want and we can train it. We're just selecting from within our collection and we're training it. That did a lot. That gave us all group photos, didn't it? So we got the individual out and we got into training it for baseball teams. And then we can click and save that as a navigator as well. So here at our navigator, we just took our essential first collection and we just cherry picked specifically to create a new collection and train it. And we got a lot more imagery that matches. Let's start with a basic search. And we're going to employ some of the strategies to talk about how can we use it? Can we use search operators? Can we combine terms? What can we do to kind of be more flexible? I've got some strategies based on some research I've done on this. Here I'm going to search on map, just the term map. I got a lot of imagery of people, but it could be that the caption says something about a map or something, the metadata that it was associated with the image. There's a lot of different reasons why we would get a mix. So we have to train it. Because this, again, is still a new project. Now, I think about what will this be like in a year. It may be so much more accurate. Every time it's trained, it's learning more. So I can see here, this is this first image on the left is a map from World War II over in Europe. Here's another one with several maps on the same page. So if I'm really strictly looking at maps, I would click those and highlight them. When I click it, it puts a little star on it. And on the right, you can see that when you click it, you're going to see that option for collection. When you click it, then it puts the red box, puts the star, and then we're going to click at the top, My Collection. Okay, so I've got 2 maps. I'm going to train my AI navigators. So we're going to click, it's part of the menu here up at the top. There we go. So I see more in there. Now, notice what it's doing. And this is, let me tell you right out of the gate, it's not perfect, okay? It's a lot of fun. It's going to be very fast in some scenarios. It's going to open up some new ideas to you in terms of what you can find that you're not finding at Chronicling America, but it's not perfect. Okay, so none of that. It's not perfect. And what you notice here is that it's really starting to pay attention. Remember I was talking about defects in pictures? Those can affect things. It's starting to think, maybe she just wants really washed out looking pictures. No, I don't want that. So I have to keep training it, right? It's starting to lean that way because for whatever reason, the maps that we got initially were a little more washed out. And that comes from a variety of reasons. It's either the original newspaper. Many of the newspapers at Chronicling America were digitized from microfilm. So that plays a part in this as well. So we could just keep clicking maps and adding them, and we can also get rid of stuff. So if I see an image here with lots of faces, I'm going to click on it. At the top, there was a plus sign. That's how we added it to our collection. When we click an image on the right, we had plus at the top, but there was a minus at the bottom. If you click on the bottom half of the image, it drops it into the negative space over on the left. So at the top in green, these are images you're saving that you're going to train it on. And at the bottom are the images that you've said, I don't want these. Let's skew away from that. Okay, so we're going to just add some of these and we're going to train my AI navigator again. Here's what I want. Here's what I don't want. We could add more. So sometimes you'll find, depending on how determined you are and what it is that you need, you might want to do several trainings. I think about Google search, and one of the things I stress so much in my book and my videos is that really good Googling for more in-depth types of queries, not just when did this happen or the name of a person, but really trying to find something very specific. It's really multiple layers, okay? Don't be timid to edit your queries based on your search results. We have to learn from what we look at, right? You get a document, you're going to learn from it, and that's going to then color how you're going to move forward in other research. The same thing with search. You got to look at the results and say, what am I wanting out of this? What am I not wanting? When it comes to Google search, we do that with search operators, don't we? We tell it a little more, I want this, and a little less of that with minus signs. In Navigator, it's the same thing, but we're doing it visually. So don't be timid about running it several times to keep really zeroing in on what it is that you want. Let's see here. Okay, so Mark has a question. Can the washout pictures be enhanced with the new MyHeritage photo with the sharpening feature and colorization to make it a final, better image experience? Absolutely. Oh, that's a fantastic idea. It was something actually I talked about in a recent premium episode, not just newspaper articles. I've done it with genealogical documents. I've had census records that were just a little too washed out, and I tossed them into MyHeritage, and that's going to sharpen them up, enhance them. I love it. Really fun, wouldn't it be, to take a photograph and not only enhance it from a newspaper, but actually make it color. Oh, you guys, we're going to be up all night. We're going to be up all night. There's so much to do. That's so much fun. I just love it. I have been at this for all week long. I've been obsessed with doing this. It's been so much fun. Okay. So once it says here, when you hover over train my AI navigators, once you've finished adjusting your selections, click here to retrain your navigator. You just keep doing that. So here we've improved it again, and we can subtract more. We can also give it a name. So we don't want to lose track of what we've already done. Maybe you're in mid-training and you got to go do something else. Put a name on it. So you're going to name your AI navigator, click the save button, which is just above the plus sign on the center, and that's going to put it in your AI navigators. So here's maps. I'd say we've improved it quite a bit. There's some very interesting maps. And think about this with even your kids. Kids are doing research all the time and for school. And I just think this is another really kind of a cool tool that they could use to find representative imagery for what they're working on, as well as the limitless possibilities. So we've improved our search results, I would say. When you hover over it, you can go back, you can remove any and rerun them. If you want to start a new search, just click clear and restart. So I did a search for boxers. And I've done some training here. Okay, so I've created a collection initially, put in the word boxers, didn't get any pictures of underwear, but I got dogs and I got people, right? I got boxing rings. So we selected the initial ones I wanted first, got those up in the plus area with the green boxes. Trained it with the AI Navigator, went through and deselected many that you see there in the bottom, surrounded by blue. Since I named it, you will always find it once it's been named. Your AI Navigator is going to be over on the left, and you'll see boxers. So you can have multiple ones. And then on the right is the trained search results that it found. It's very cool. So let's go back to searching for ancestors. We're going to touch on the question, how am I going to use this to really zero in? How does it parallel play the way, Google.com does search? So here is my husband's great-grandfather, Lars Larson, Lars Johan Larson. Okay, he also went by, very commonly, L.J. Larson. So let's say I want to see if I can find something for him. So here's an example. I did a search for L.J. There's a space there. L space, J space, Larson. That's how I would type it, okay? And I got one image here. So when I click through to it, it says here from 1903, L.J. Larson, whose cut of his pleasant and well-arranged home is above, was born. See, it's OCR. So That's interesting in itself. But we do get some gist of information. This guy is from Sweden. We know what his name is. We know what the year is. So there's lots of information we can click through and look at it on the page itself and learn more about the newspaper. Now, first and foremost, this doesn't support search operators like we use at google.com. If you're wondering what I mean by search operators, if you're new to the show, go to genealogygems.com/11s and you'll see all the episodes for 11s with Lisa. And we do have one back around episode 13, but I'm not sure. It was on Google search, how to get better searches. So we talk about search operators, and that's not going to work here. Who knows? They may eventually incorporate them, but right now they really don't appear to be supported. So I tried variations, and this actually was very revealing as well. It does show that this navigator is in its infancy, but like I say, it's going to continue to hopefully improve. So when I ran L.J. Larson, no periods and no space, I got nothing. Lars Johan Larson, nothing. LJ with periods, but no space between the L and J. Didn't get anything. But we did when I did L period space J period Larson. So this means it's a little more manual in that what you might normally do with search operators, you're going to need to do by a few repetitive searches to try out the different variations. Didn't take me long to grab these, and I'm glad that I tried all of them because I didn't want to miss the picture of the house. Okay, so searching for the location, so that's a way to go too. It may be that you're having trouble with the name. There's so many different ways that a person might be referred to, so why not do a search on the place? I did a search on McMinnville, which is where some of the Cooke ancestors lived in Oregon, and got 18 results, which I could instantly see images. That's not going to take me long to take a look at some of these and see if there's something there for me. And it's very possible that only the last name of each person in the group photo was given, or that no names were given. We don't know. But this is a nice way to kind of go in and do a quick sweep and see if you can find something from that location that you know your ancestor lived in. You could also filter down by time frame on that. So I was showing you in a past episode my trained Oroville video that I did in Adobe Spark. This is my grandfather, and he worked at Western Pacific, and he was on the Feather River run for many years in California. Really fun to go in and do a search on Feather River and find articles with pictures and imagery from that time frame of the area. I love this picture of the canyon along the Western Pacific Railway. So this was a really nice addition that I knew I could use because it's in the public domain in my videos, in a book, in an article, whatever I want to do. Very cool. So search for location. Test your theories as well. That's another one of the strategies I strongly recommend for you is I was wondering when I saw this one, L.J. Larson in Sweden, I thought, well, what if I ran a search for Larson and Sweden? Nothing. I don't know why. Again, it's not perfect. It's in its infancy. But for whatever reason, it wasn't able to pick up two words that were part of the OCR text. So then my next hypothesis was maybe this has something to do with stringing, if the words are strung together versus not. So one of the things we know right now about Newspaper Navigator is we may not have as much success with individual words that don't appear together. So I went back and looked and found a string of words and wanted to test that theory as well. As you use this, you're not only training the navigator, you're training yourself as a searcher, okay? So consolidation coal company is one continuous string. It's a phrase. I thought, okay, well, I'll run that. And I got 11 results. So right now, it looks like it would better support a string than it might these individual words that appear in different places within the caption or the article or the metadata. That's important to know. Also, I thought it was really fun just to go in and type in the word photo, okay? And then filter to Oregon, where the Cookes were from, And how about just the time frame, 1900 to 1945? I was thinking about, actually not Cooke's, Mansfield. In a very earlier episode of 11 Sits with Lisa, I showed you how I made this huge poster of Sidney Mansfield playing in the Centennial Syncopators around the Centennial of Oregon back in the 1940s. And I wanted to see if I could find any other photographs. So doing this gave me a fairly manageable amount of imagery. I could certainly do some training with it, but I can also zero in by state and by time frame. So if you've got a little bit of free time and you want to take a look, I just think it's fascinating to go through and just look at the photos. I would also recommend that you switch to list view. List view was an option. It's in the upper right-hand corner. Click that. Now you've got the advantage of the OCR. So I use my Control F or Command F on a Mac and do a find on the page. And let's just do a quick find for the last name. Alclany or Mansfield or whatever the name is, and it will pop to it. Even if there might be 100 in the list, it's going to say, we've got it here and we've got it here. Really speed it up. So I know you might have felt discouraged. Oh, Lisa, that's going to take too long to browse through all this. But convert to list view and then do your find on page. And I would just target specific words. Check it out. It's going to be great. It's going to speed things up for you. If you want to learn more about this, I just think machine learning is fascinating. It's making a huge impact in a lot of different areas in our lives. And data archaeology is the place in the menu to go check out more on the background. You might be really interested, as I was, to go through and read the data archaeology on this. And some of the biases and things that are built into machine learning, these are things we have to keep in mind as well. And here you're also going to find links to collections. So they have already collected certain data sets. So for example, and it goes into how you can actually search for these yourself or call them out of the data collections. So in 1905, you can literally download the zip of every illustration or every map that appeared in a newspaper in 1905. That's kind of cool. So that's a fast way to go. You can see that they have already done a lot of different things: cartoons, headlines, illustrations, photographs. You can go through and download those zip files. That's a lot of fun. Chronicling America's newspaper, Navigator. I think it's an exciting time to be researching newspapers. It's kind of the last frontier when it comes to genealogy research because they are by no means all digitized. We've got all the census records online, all that, but we don't have newspapers. And there's just a massive collection here that just got a little easier to search. I know many of you are premium members. If you're a premium member to my website, go check out getting the scoop on old newspapers. Okay, this video has been absolutely updated for 2020. It's brand new. It's on the website. You'll even see my smiling face on there if you're not tired of it already. And of course, I have my book, How to Find Your Family History in Newspapers. And so if you want to learn more, my overall newspaper strategies, if you kind of liked the way I was thinking and strategizing in these searches, the book really deals with all of newspapers, whether online or offline, and what I think is the best process for that. That's available at our store at genealogygems.com, as is membership. So here, I had some closing thoughts I wanted to share with you because I just think this whole topic is fascinating. And the fact that it's really changing things for us. You can't help but think in broader ways about search when it comes to, watching something like this. It got me thinking about genealogy and genealogy websites. When you're watching Newspaper Navigator be trained through machine learning, it makes you think about, in what other ways is our research and even our lives being impacted by this new type of technology. If you think about Ancestry and MyHeritage and genealogy websites with records and family search, they're starting to use it. I know when I attended a VIP breakfast at the last Roots Tech, Ancestry was talking about their using machine learning in their search as well. Think about hints on genealogy websites. Hints have the potential to, of course, get you quicker because it's out there finding things for you based on the data. It's learning from your tree and it's bringing you new stuff, but it also has the potential to kind of lead you astray, doesn't it? If you have just something wrong on your tree, which happens to all of us, then getting additional hints could actually lead you astray or solidify false perceptions or conclusions. And actually, you start building on that, which could be a negative, right? So there's the more that you see and the more hints that you're confirming, the more you're going to get the same delivered to you. And in everyday life, I was thinking about how does this kind of impact our everyday life? Well, in everyday life, information, of course, is being delivered to us from a variety of ways, particularly our phones and everything else. In social media, if you think about now, we're seeing friends, we're seeing videos, we're seeing politics, we're seeing just news, things that are happening. And we actually, every time we use Facebook, we're training it, in a sense, into what it's going to deliver to us. Have you noticed that you tend to see some people more than you see other people in your feed? I have a neighbor who was saying, "You've never liked my stuff. What's happening?" I said, "I don't think I've ever seen your stuff." Now, I have a lot of Facebook friends just over the years of being in the genealogy circuit of speaking and meeting people and that kind of thing. But, only so much can rise to the top. And of course, based on what I'm already looking at, he may never have popped up. So this whole idea of machine learning, my point is to be aware of it, to know that this is going on in the background. And so just like we were talking about in Google search the other day in a past episode, what you're getting as a result isn't always the complete picture. And I think that's really important to remember. In fact, it can be really easy to start to feel like you're kind of in an echo chamber of information because it starts to get narrowed down because it keeps wanting to feed you more of what it is that you are saying that you're looking at. So, keep that in mind as you're moving about your day and you're looking at what's coming to you online. We're spending more time online than ever. And I think it's really important to remember that in the end, we have to think for ourselves. We have to do our own homework. And we can remember that what we're seeing is not always the complete picture. And we always want to test and retest the conclusions that we've come to ensure that we're not perpetuating the incorrect because of what we think we're already looking at and getting involved in. I hope that makes sense. It's a new vast frontier, and it can make huge strides for us in our genealogy research, but it also has its foibles and faults, and we want to be aware of it, and hopefully we'll keep you abreast of everything that's happening, particularly that pertains to how it's impacting your genealogy here at Genealogy Gems. I hope today's show gave you some new ideas. Get out there, start doing your training, have fun with it, and stay in touch with me. Head on over to genealogygems.com and click the newsletter sign up button on the homepage, because that's the best way to stay in touch with me and see each and every week what we are doing over at 11s with Lisa on the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel, and of course right here on the Genealogy Gems podcast. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.